My name is Mark Badger, and I serve as the leader of a company called Canada Fibers and a group of companies called the Urban Resource Group. So, as you may know, Canada Fibers is a company that was born 25 years ago as a broker of paper, recycled paper. As you may know, one of our early suppliers of paper was the Toronto Star, and we would take their overruns and then turn around and sell them to a mill who would make other paper products. I guess it was late 1990s we got into the business of sorting materials at the end of their life in what's called a MuRF, a material recovery facility, I like to term it. And today we sort 50-60% of the blue box materials in the province of Ontario, and as we speak, some stuff outside the province of Ontario, which is a new initiative for us. Anyway, listen, what we wish to speak to you about today is a technology that's emerging that can capture a greater amount of valuable recyclable material from your waste streams, okay? I'm going to give you a statistic here in a second. Who lives in Toronto? Okay. You guys are pretty good because in your blue boxes, you get about 65% of the stuff that could go on to another life, okay? You're not in a high-rise, are you? No. You're in a house? Okay, probably a little further north. That's good, because you're getting 65%. Typically, in a high-rise setting, okay, in a multi-residential setting, we had somebody in residential somewhere. You residential? Great. I missed you. Okay? In a high-rise setting, typically you only get 27 or 30% of what you could through blue box or blue container initiatives. So in multi-residential settings, there's a lot of opportunity for more diversion and more gathering of valuable waste streams. So we're going to talk to you about a technology that can help with that. It's a technology that we are pioneering at Canada Fibers. We'll tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. Probably in a number of your companies or institutions, there are proclamations that come down from on high about how much diversion you would like to achieve within your corporations. We've seen proclamations at Brookfield. We've seen proclamations at Cadillac Fairview. Recently, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Canadian Tire, to name just three, have all set very public targets, very, very public targets about how much waste they would like to divert, okay? So it isn't just the municipality of Toronto now that's saying, you know, by 2020 we want to have X percent out, okay? It's a lot of the companies that are making the products, it's retailers who are distributing the products, and it's firms like yours. And the reason why is people like you and my daughters, okay? There is a different demographic today than my demographic. And the demographic today is more demanding of sustainably produced products and services. Take a look at it. Nissan's a great example of a company that's capitalizing on the trend of today's consumers. Ange, I put you in that category too. Today's consumers are researchers. They look before they leap in terms of their purchases of products and services, and they're proud to flaunt the fact that their products or services are environmentally conscious, okay? In the case of Nissan, if you take a look at a lot of their marketing material today, it's targeted at your demographic. And there are bold claims about how much plastic is in the car that is going round for its second time, how much metal is in the car that's going round for the second time. What's interesting is your demographic, if you study it, is actually en masse, generally speaking, willing to pay what's called a green premium. Okay? They're willing to pay a little bit more for a socially and environmentally conscious solution to their product or their service needs. So you're seeing large public companies. Some of you work for public companies, right? Some of you work for public companies? Okay. You're seeing large public companies make these proclamations about how much they want to divert and how they want to improve their carbon footprint and their sustainability and their corporate social responsibility, not only because of their consumers, but really, really importantly, and I can say this with a great deal of certainty because in a former life I ran a public company, you will attract more shareholders if you have a good corporate social responsibility rating. There are companies out there that rate public companies, you know, okay, that rate public companies according to their environmental footprint, okay? And there are funds, mutual funds and pension funds who are restricted from investing in companies that don't have good environmental ratings. And because of that, what you find is public companies who have a good track record with respect to recycling and use of resources and carbon footprints have higher valuations than companies who have poor ratings. So there's a lot of incentive with consumers and with investors today for doing the right thing. And within what I what I term the Icy Ice sector, institutional, commercial, industrial, we'll add to that multi-residential, we're only scratching the surface in terms of the resources that we can recover. We truly are only scratching the surface in North America. So today, in North America, typically what you find in a high-rise building or an Icy Ice setting, where source separation is high. What's source separation? It means that, you know, people do a good job of putting stuff in the blue bin that should be in the blue bin, okay? Where that's high, waste diversion is low, because in most of the situations, there's a commingled mass of stuff that's garbage and recovered materials. Maybe shouldn't be in some cases because blue bins were intended for recycled materials, but reality is there's a lot of commingling, okay? There's a lot of resource that could be diverted. The problem in getting from the lower left quadrant to the upper right quadrant is technology. And we're going to talk to you about a technology that we've developed to help us together with that journey. So, for those of you who live in houses in Toronto, that's what your blue box material looks like, up there on the left. And it tends to be plastic in the blue, metal or aluminum in the dark gray, fiber or paper in the light gray, glass in the very dark gray, and then stuff that never should have gotten in there, like hoses and bowling balls.
I've seen a bowling ball at a MuRF.
Yeah. Actually, there's one came through recently. I was thinking it might be a good one. We get marijuana. We had a bale of marijuana come through. That whole bale of marijuana that came through. You know, and tires and concrete blocks and wood and so on and so forth. But, you know, these are things that never should have found their way into the blue box, and they do. But within a single family, single stream setting, that's kind of how it looks. That's what conventional material recovery facilities are intended to process. Have you been through any of ours? Mm-hmm. We both have been. Really? Yeah. Good. You got to come through our new one. Okay. And our new one is intended for the stuff on the left, okay, which is typically referred to as municipal solid waste, MSW. MSW is different from blue box or single stream materials by virtue of the amount of organics and the amount of recyclables and the amount of non-recyclable material residuals that are in it. It tends to be 50% stuff that never should have gotten in there versus, you know, in a big city that might be 10, it might be 20%. Organics in this situation tends to be about 25%, maybe 30 of the mix, comparing to, you know, maybe 3% in this city. And then the good recyclables, about 25%, comparing to, call it 75% in this scenario. What we're targeting with our new facility is this type of material. Yeah.
So you're going to maintain the existing
Yep.
plan for that. You're just going after the next one.
Exactly. For high-rise apartment buildings, for, let's just say, I have to be careful what words I use here. My favorite coffee shops, okay? And this technology has the ability to mine the good stuff out of those commingled streams that, I'm sorry, in North America, we are never going to get source separated because we have a different mentality here than they do in Europe. It would take a generation to wring that out. Let's not wait for the generation to come by. Let's deal with it through technology today. So as you may know, we have 8 MuRFs, material recovery facilities within the province of Ontario. This number 9 is different because it can get this stuff. The other 8 are focused on this stuff. So this might blow you away. When we take a look at the amount of material from the Icy Ice sector and multi-residential that's going to the dump, it's huge. 3 million tons of the multi-residential stuff gets there. 6 million tons per year of the high-rise of the ICI material. Okay, let me put it in context. Through the Blue Box program, these are Ontario numbers, through the Blue Box program in Ontario, we, the collective we, mine about 1 million tons. We got almost 10 million tons going to the dump. I think we can do better. I think we have to work together, but I think we can do better. So those are big numbers. Yeah, please.
At this stage, I recognize what you said about Europe being ahead of Canada and North America in recovery of solid waste. But how portable is the technology you've got going on? Is it ready to go outdoor to other countries, to island nations, to other smaller markets?
So, wow, that's great. The truth is, as we'll talk about here, we're really focused on one location in Ontario next year. Okay, what I find the older I get, is I learn a lesson again and again and again. And you can only do so much in any given period of time and do it well. I know my mother used to tell me that when I was a boy, and it didn't make any sense at that point. It makes a lot of sense now. So someday, probably not in my career, will it be international other than in the United States. Okay? But if you have ideas, I don't think Mom's listening. I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you later. So what we're attempting to do, I say attempting, that's what I said 3 weeks ago. What we have accomplished, I can say that today, with this technology, is the recovery of not only the conventional materials like water bottles and Coke bottles and single-serve food containers and so on and so forth and paper, but importantly, we separate an organics fraction that goes on to anaerobic digestion to create power. And this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting for you because you know that those organics have to be devoid of enough inorganic material that they're potent and they produce a great amount of methane gas. And that's a little bit of a trick. It's a trick, quite frankly, that we've been working on for about 3/4 of a year and just came to the point where we're happy with it, I guess 2 weeks ago. So what we're talking about doing has been rambled around the industry as a dirty MuRF, okay? The clean stuff goes to a conventional MuRF. Clean is stuff with maybe 10, 15% non-recyclable garbage shingles that shouldn't be in there and stuff like that. So stop putting them in. And the dirty stuff tends to be 50% stuff that shouldn't be in there and 50% stuff that can be recovered, typically called a dirty MuRF that processes it. So back in the 1990s, people began processing this stuff that's loosely known as MSW and recovering the ferrous metals out of it, which have some good value, and recovering the higher BTU material that was then put into some sort of a burning chamber to create energy. Through to about the I'd call it 2010. Here in North America, we had, call it 10 dirty MuRFs, most of them located in California, largely doing two things: burning whatever the heck that they got, and then putting the rest as cover for landfill. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's better than just throwing it all in the dump, right? But we can do better. We can do better than that. We can use the organics and send them on to make power, and we can use the plastic recyclable materials for recycling. And guess what? The carbon footprint of doing that stuff is a lot better than the carbon footprint of just burning it to create energy. We're attempting, as I said, to take it one step further. One step further involves recovering the organics and recovering the recyclable materials. Nothing goes on to incineration or burning, okay, with our technology, which is different in North America. I guess, Darlene, it was about this time last year I got back from Europe, and Joe Miranda, who you know, who's one of Canada Fiber's founders, and I went over to Europe, and we looked at the best dirty MuRFs that existed all throughout Europe. We don't call it a dirty MuRF, we call it a high diversion MuRF, an HD MuRF. And we came to the conclusion that they were miles ahead of us in Europe in terms of the mining of the resources from MSW, but they hadn't gone far enough. So we're attempting, along with our technology suppliers, and that's plural because there's no one company that has the ability to install a gizmo that'll do all this stuff. You have to cobble it together. You know what I'm talking about. So we have an HD MuRF that is a complement to source separation. So if you have a building that has difficulty because you can't seem to get the blue box stuffs where it should be and the garbage, including organics, where it should be, this technology is something that may help you. It targets streams from the residential and Icy Ice sectors, which are rich in recoverable materials. And as I said earlier, you can't buy one of these machines off the shelf. There's a lot of technology. It's a lights out plant. Come and see it. I invite you to come and see it. By lights out, what I mean is you won't see people wandering around so much as you will see a control room operating the plant in a highly efficient and a highly effective manner. So we bought a facility last fall. Right after we got back from Europe, there was a company put up for sale. The name of the company was Dongera. And some people may know that Dongera was attempting to make fuel pellets from MSW, okay? And tried for about 10 years, and it didn't work out so well. But it had the perfect bones for a high diversion MuRF. So we decided to buy the place, and since then we've been adding technology to it, and I'm really proud to tell you that in the trials that we've been doing using that technology, we have successfully captured the organic fraction clean enough so it can go on to anaerobic digestion, and we've successfully captured the rich recyclable materials clean enough that they can go on for recycling purposes. I could have only said that partially a couple of weeks ago. I'm able to say it fully today. So any of you who know me a little bit know that I'm not a stranger to new technology or investment in new technology, which means I've got a lot of scar tissue, okay? And, I've learned a lot of lessons. Some of them I've learned repeatedly. Most of them I've learned the hard way. And with technology, you have to have what I call gates, okay? There's books written on it, stage gates, okay? You have to scale it up, in pieces because you don't know what you don't know at the beginning, okay? You don't know what you don't know, and you find stuff out along the way and you correct it before you take the next step. So in 2016, we've been doing pilots with this facility with a number of municipalities and ICI folks. And these pilots we term PrePilots, and they were designed to help us understand the inbound composition of the materials, what could be recovered, and what technology we needed in order to go the distance to get the organics and the valuable recyclable materials. This may make you feel a little bit better. Might. Doing the work that we're doing at our high diversion MuRF costs a little bit more money than doing conventional stuff. So if you're an organization that's good at conventional sorting, you're going to want to stick with that. If you're an organization that just can't see your way to proper source separation, then the high diversion technology makes some sense.
It's not just the generators that are going to be...
You're going to come and see us too.
Yeah.
Again. So in our second phase, which we're in already, the sources for the materials are lined up on the incoming side. The places that need to take it on the outgoing are lined up. The technology's in place to make it work. We've spent a lot of money on technology in 2016, including an odor suppression system that eclipses anything that I saw when I was doing my European tour, which is very, very important. We're right at the corner of Highway 7 and 27, okay? And there are a lot of really good restaurants in the area, and there's a lot of really good noses in the area. So, you know, odor suppression is very, very important to us. So in 2017, we will be processing materials for municipalities, potentially for the Icy Ice sector, and we'll be recovering materials that otherwise would be going to the dump. That wasn't our objective when we started this program. Our objective was to be at that stage by 2018. We're going to get there a little earlier than we thought. And, you know, we're going to get there a little earlier than we thought, largely because of people like you, okay, who had an interest in greater diversion and you know, better economies than just sending stuff onto the dump. And there are a number of municipalities and people out of the Icy Ice sector who've really helped us to accelerate the gating of our development. I have to, you know, I can't say publicly who's been supporting us in the background, but I will say, at least I don't think I can. I will say that my experience is with technologies and new things, nothing ever happens unless a community of people come together with a common interest and kind of move it along. And this is one of those glowing instances where that has worked. Those of you who know us know we're not strangers to innovation. In 2010, we opened the first Icy Ice single stream facility in Ontario at Arrow Road, and told the likes of, I guess I can mention a name or two here. Can I name drop, Ange? Can I? Okay. I've been given permission to name. You know, en route on the highways, Bentall Kennedy, and others collect valuable recyclables in a single stream form and send them on to another life as another product. Prior to 2010, I don't think there were a lot of people around who believed that you could, for ICI, do a single stream scenario that worked. It worked well enough that we opened another facility in Durham 2013, 2014-ish. You've probably seen our flagship MuRF at Arrow Road. Our flagship MuRF puts through 250,000 tons of materials in a year from Blue Box. 250,000 tons makes it the largest single-stream MuRF within North America. I can tell you it's the most technologically advanced that exists in North America, meaning that it's better at diversion and efficiency than others in North America. And you know what I can say is amongst the municipalities that use that MuRF, we're proud to say this, we work with the City of Toronto. We process for the City of Toronto in that facility. And you know, we're very proud that Toronto's given the confidence in us to process their material in that facility. Now we go on with our high diversion MuRF. So no stranger. If you've been to our campus at Arrow Road, we do like to show people around because seeing is believing. You can hear me talk about it all day long, but you only believe half of what I have to say until you see it, and then you might believe 75% of it. So we'd love to show you around. We have 27 acres just west of Highway 400, just a little north of Finch on Arrow Road. And on that campus, and this is very important, to the left, our municipality MuRF, serving Toronto and other municipalities. On the right, our MuRF serving the Icy Ice sector, the likes of Bentall Kennedy and En route and so on and so forth. Then over here, 130 Arrow Road, we have a very large plastic recycling company. You were in the extrusion business, so this is going to mean something for you. So today, we've only been doing this for about 2 years, okay? 2 years we've been into this. It's been a twinkle in my eye forever because I've been in the plastics business since I graduated from the University of Western Ontario. And somehow or another, they put my picture on the front of a magazine and named me Plastics Leader of the Year, which is typically a curse, and bad things happen after that, but so far so good, touch plastic. I wanted to be in the business of putting plastic to use a second, a third, a fourth time for a long period of time. And I never would do it until I was sure that the source of materials was there on an ongoing basis to feed it with Canada Fibers. The source is there. I would never do it if all we could do was melt and filter Tide bottles and fleecy bottles and things like that, because there's a bunch of jokers who do that. It all goes into pipe below the ground, and every 2 years somebody goes out of business because there's no money in taking a high-end material and downgrading it. The only reason I got a sparkle in my eye over this one was technology that had just been born on the chemistry side and on the hardware side over in Europe that has enabled us to take your Tide bottle and your fleecy bottle and turn it into very, very critical, thin wall, has to be aesthetically pleasing, can't have imperfection building products and houseware products, okay? So we're taking recycled plastic into markets where it's never been before. We're taking plastic into new segments, not downgrading, but we're upgrading it. And this all ties together with the high diversion MuRF because we have an insatiable, I'm exaggerating a bit, but we have a robust appetite for plastic materials, which we can help to fuel through our high diversion activities. So we began in the plastics recycling business about 1.5 years ago, and I hope to be at the point come January. We invested, I won't tell you how many millions of dollars, but a lot. And we're going to go and do it again, I believe, come January, because of the market's strong reception to our unique, clean, consistent, highly formulated, upgraded plastic materials.
Can you recycle more than 1 and 2 for plastic?
So 1 is PET, okay? PET, we do that all day long. That's easy, okay? The bottles and the containers and stuff like that, they go on to be other bottles or other containers. And interestingly, car companies started using it in a highly compounded situation in wheel wells of cars. Easy. Two is HDPE, high density polyethylene, okay? That has to be washed really good. And then, you know, anybody who's seen a plastic facility knows it gets pelletized, okay? After it gets washed and ground up and so on and so forth, it gets pelletized. And sometimes you put foo-foo dust into it to make it, it's a highly technical term, foo-foo dust. You probably studied that at school, sir. You put foo-foo dust in it to fortify it. Okay. So now, polypropylene. Okay? Polypropylene is a very, very valuable material, but you have to be really good at mining it. So you have to have good optical technology to make sure that you're getting the polypropylene and not the other stuff. We do that, and we do that well. We highly compound polypropylene materials, and your Tide bottles and fleecy bottles are going on to become, you know, houseware, consumer-type products, and they can't smell because they're in a store or you're in a home. And, you know, in some cases, they have to be UV resistant. In some cases, they have to they can't promote mold and mildew. So you have to put a lot of different kinds of foo-foo dust in them. So the answer to your question is absolutely. Okay? Yeah, so absolutely. Absolutely. So polystyrene is not something that we're recycling at this point in time. We do collect it. We do send it on to other folks who recycle it. Where we do a good job today is we do a good job with PET, HDPE, and PP. The others, okay, the 3s, the 4s, the 6s, and the 7s, we recover, but we send them on to other people who work with that stuff. That answer your question?
Yes.
That answer yours? Okay. And I will tell you this, okay? One of the problems with the plastics, I'm being recorded, so I have to watch what I'm going to say, so I won't say that. One of the issues the plastics industry confronts is the number of different kinds of polymers, okay? And polymers typically have to be sorted into different streams in order to be reused, okay? Because they all have different melt points, okay? And you can't have stuff that melts at 400 degrees going through an extruder with stuff that melts at 320, because some of it will be burnt and some of it won't be cooked properly. There's chemistry being developed to cause what's miscibility of polymers having different melt points and different molecule chains. Right. So, you know, anybody that says just burn all the plastic because there's so many of them and it costs so much to sort it, I say wake up, because there's a lot of it being recycled and going on to a different use today, and particularly in Europe. You look at Belgium, you look at Europe, you look at some places in the Netherlands, okay, their recycling rates are 40%. So 40% of what gets discarded goes on to be another product. And 55% goes on to become energy for other things. So people have to take note of that. In Canada, you know, the truth is, on a good day, 20 to 22%, okay, of what we discard goes on to another life as either energy or recycling. Yeah, we can do better. And at our company called Urban Polymers, we're trying to do better. The other thing that people have to keep in mind is chemistry's moving. Chemistry's moving. And what you can't today put together, like, you'd never think of putting a 1 with a 5, okay? Because they're different. That may not be the case tomorrow because of the advances that are being made in chemistry today. I'll tell you a true story. 3 years ago, I was doing a little extracurricular activity to figure out whether or not you could blend polypropylene and HDPE. And it's called the Miscibility, okay, the miscibility of olefins. I talked to every university professor in Canada who was working on the subject. I talked to every professor who was working on the subject. And I came away thinking, we're really limited in what can be done. You might get away with 10% HDPE in with PP. That isn't the case today. The chemical technology that exists, and some of which we have invented on our own, okay, you can go much further than that with miscibility. So I think the good news for the plastics industry is chemistry is moving, which will make recovery a better thing. So this wheel, which my friend Darlene over here on the left, who's with us at Canada Fibers and the Urban Group of Companies, created artistically, is meant to represent our strategy today. What the heck we're trying to do to make ourselves different from others. We're trying to create that circular economy through hauling valuable materials, through providing consulting services in terms of audits and plans to enhance diversion, separation through our MuRFs, making of plastic materials, and then we have 2 consumer products that we manufacture from wood that we recover. One is garden mulch. The other one is wooden fuel pellets. Okay, and those of you who has a wooden fireplace at home? Does anybody have a wooden fireplace? I do. Old school. The rest of you have gas probably. Okay, so old school. You got to put a log on it. You got to keep putting logs on it, so on and so forth. These wooden fuel pellets, really, which came to us from Europe, you dump a bag in a hopper, okay? And it feeds at whatever rate you have to have it fed at to keep your house at thermostatically controlled 70 degrees. So, at the cottage, you don't have to get up in the middle of the night to add another log to the fire. Great product. We introduced it a year and a half ago. And Darlene, I don't know whether you know, but sales this year just are going through the roof with that product. So that is what we call the wheel of fortune. It's actually the wheel of investment. It's not the wheel of fortune at this point in time. It's meant to represent the highly integrated nature of our company and the technological advances within our companies to help our customers like you, achieve higher diversion and better economics. So just in closing, before we get into a chit-chat, we believe that there is a better way. Remember the 9 million tons going to the dump and the 1 million tons getting recovered through blue boxes? That isn't good enough. In some situations, we will never get to proper separation of recyclable materials because we're in North America and we're not trained to do that. Europe's different. Okay? In those situations where there's challenging recyclable materials, MSW, municipal solid waste, we've developed a technology that can recover the organics and the good recyclable materials. We're utilizing a proprietary approach. we're not newcomers to new technologies. And we just like to think that throughout our company, we have the opportunity to show you what we do. And if we can help in some small way, we'd love that opportunity.